Judas, 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 Judas.
Judas here. This is my Stamina Sorceress solo PvP build for the Dragonhold patch, guys. 2 to 3 days into the patch, into Dragonhold, I knew that this was the setup. Well, the sets that I was going to be running. They're just so powerful, so balanced. So let's get into this. The short version. If you want the short version of the build, as always, it's linked down below in the description. So if you just do for the build, check that out. But in this video, I'm going to cover a little bit more. I'm going to go into the theory crafting behind the build, the specific setup, the way I sort of justify why I run things, and all of this. It's not coming from a 1v1 perspective or a dueling perspective, anything like that. It's coming from a solo, outnumbered perspective. In terms of StamSorc, I've been playing it for quite a while now over the current patches, and this patch there's been some big changes where we have to adapt. We had to change things up a little bit, but it's still OP. It's still really strong. I'm still loving it. The gameplay is fun, and that's all I ask for on the build. Fun gameplay, good damage. This is where it's at. So I'll go over the gameplay examples as well, and we'll look at burst combos, specifically looking at bound armaments, dizzy swing, those sort of changes. And I'm aware that there are similar builds to this out there. There are builds that offer more damage than this, builds that offer more sustainability than this, but for me, this build is very well rounded, and I'll go into the detail of how I set up specific things further on into the video. People here know what I'm running, but if you want the gameplay highlights, they're dropped down below. Just see the link in the descriptions. But for me, build videos are about learning something that you can use in another way or apply to a different class or a different situation. So many times I kill cut and paste builds. Last patch they were mainly Stamdens. Fresh Stamden cut and paste builds where people are just throwing on certain sets and they're thinking the sets are going to make them OP or the sets are going to give them a better chance. Yes, they'll give them a better chance. Yes, they'll increase stats and damage. It's for me though, without the knowledge and understanding of a build and specific things, it's like having the fastest car in a race but not being able to drive it. It just doesn't make sense. So let's get into this. In terms of the set pieces that we're running, let's talk about Fury first. Fury for me is just so strong still. The pieces, the set pieces that we got as they go up, so balanced. Health, stam, damage, and the fifth piece is really strong. I know the downside of it now compared to how it used to be is that the damage will eventually drop off and you're accumulating yet less damage, but by now it can now proc without crit damage, so any damage, even off guards, even off adds, any damage will up this and increase this. So the stacks still come quite frequent, and you can use the buff tracker at the bottom. You can sort of manage it. You can see when you're fully buffed and you're ready to go. The tooltips that this sort of thing provides, fully buffed with the other set pieces that we're running. I'm hitting around sort of, you can see on tooltips, at least 20k dizzies, 25k onslaughts, which from the onslaught and the pen that we've already got, and the other set that I'm going to talk about pretty soon, it's coming. It just makes the set pieces work together, and it's so strong. So in terms of the Fury setup, obviously Fury is heavy, so we go on the two big pieces, we go on the chest and the legs. And we complete the Fury just by going on all the jewelry. Gold infused weapon damage is where it's at. The return you get from stacking into damage. I know you can stack into max stam and max stat on StamSorc really well as well through a lot of passives, but the return you get from stacking into damage, it's just overwhelming. Damage is key this patch. It really is high across the board. You want to be pumping it high. This is the way to do it. The set that we run with Fury is New Moon Acolytes. Now, this set is great, full stop. People, well, from a StamSorc perspective, it's great. People saying that it has the downside of the reduced cost. We'll get to that in a minute. But we get the crit, we get the damage, and we get the pen, which is all fantastic on the build-up for an offensive 5-piece. And then we get the flat weapon damage, such a high chunk. This is what makes this strong. The benefit is it's only active on the front bar. So if we look at this on our bow bar, we can see that we're not receiving the pen and the weapon damage, but that's not a problem. We run Vigor on the front bar anyway, just to up those heals. That's specific just for this build. That's sort of one of the things I was talking about with the small changes that I've made. So we make sure Vigor is active on the bar where we have the extra weapon damage for the higher heals. But in terms of the bow bar, you're just sort of using this for kiting and for setting up burst, and just sort of playing people into your combos. So for me, this is really good. And the actual cost increase it will only apply to things on the front bar. So we're not having the benefit, we're not losing out when we're using things that we use quite a lot, Shuffle, Dark Deal, Hurricane. You know, we're not having the cost increase on the back bar, which is fantastic. And on top of that, I think it's Dark Knowledge, let me see, Unholy Knowledge. We get the flat reduced cost across the board. So New Moon Acolyte for StamSorc, you know, it's amazing. Trust me, get it on. So back into the sets. We make up the final two pieces on the front bar with the accolades. I go for the Maul. I've also tested, where is it? I think I've tested, yeah, I tested Sword for quite a while as well. I feel better damage from New Moon Acolyte, clearly, from the Maul and the Pen, but better healing from the Sword. So, you know, it is what it is. Necessarily, I've not looked into bleeds this patch. I don't know how well the axe will perform, but if you're going with either of these two, you're going to be good. The poisons that we run on this, obviously we run Neuro to boost up that damage. The poisons that we run on this, we run the double dot cost poisons. Comment down below if you need to know how to make these, someone will help you out. Can't remember off the top of my head, but these things are strong. And the back bar, because we can front bar new moons, we can have a separate set piece on the back bar. Black Rose dual wield is strong. I feel like it would be very, very strong on this setup, but it would go against the way I've designed the build. So, you know, if you're thinking, oh, I'll mix this up and I'll throw on a different set piece on the back, this is specific to 2H and Bow, the medium sort of in-out kite playstyle. So for me, Master's Bow, Poison Inject is so strong this patch. You've still got good damage from it, and you've got the benefit of the initial hit now doing the sort of execute bonus. So you've got real control from your bow bar. There's also options to do the different morph for Poison Inject, where you can get the sort of interrupts, sort of you can manage outnumbered gameplay and manage 1vx like that. But the extra damage on this is so strong. Stacks with Fury, stacks with New Moon, stacks with the way in a sense that we run the build. You could go Infused on this. Infused would be a better option if you're really wanting to get crazy with the numbers. You know, there's build videos out there already that's pushing like crazy high tooltips. But for me, you know, those returns eventually will diminish. I'd rather have the extra things sort of benefiting everything and the way I play the build, rather than having just that extra little bit of number. It will make a difference, but for me, the difference, I'd rather drop that and stack into things that make this more balanced. Okay, Troll King, as always, let's talk about Bloodspawn first. Bloodspawn has got its options. You don't need Troll King heals when it comes to 1v1s, so the stam recovery on this is nice, as is the ultimate gen, but the resistances. Obviously you've got to proc the resistances, but this patch, especially from an outnumbered perspective, it might not necessarily be a Magplar, but there's a lot of builds, including this one, that's running Onslaught. So you're just going to be bare. You're going to be adding resistances to someone's skills, what they're then taking away, so you're going to be bare with this. I'm not saying, right, I don't want a load of hate, I'm not saying Bloodspawn is a bad set at all. For me, if you want to change the setup, I'll show you a setup at the end where you can run Bloodspawn. But the way I stack into this, the way I design this build, it does work around Troll King as well. So back to Troll King. Troll King heals are just so strong. Later on, I'm going to talk about some skills that allow this to stack into it. You probably already know Bound Armaments benefits passively from having TK on, in terms of the amount of healing you can get. It's insane, and what makes it strong is that it's from another source, so it's over the top of your vigor. It's not just your vigor, it's healing as a stat, as a regen. That makes this just so strong. So yeah, those are basically all our set pieces that we've talked about. Race, you can see that I am an orc. The orc passives, they're just they really do benefit StamSorc and this setup so well. We get the Juicy Max Stam, we get a nice health increase to keep us at a decent sort of pool in terms of open world sort of setup, and the Swift Warrior Man, flat damage and the reduced cost when sprinting. This build, the mobility on this build, you can dark deal and sprint for days, and you're fast. This stacks so well with the other sources. We get the bow dodge, we get the speed from the bow dodge roll, we get the flat movement speed bonus here, and then the Mundus that we're running, we'll get onto that now, we're running the Steed Mundus. So that will really help us out in terms of our speed, in terms of our mobility. I mean, so if we look at Steed, you might be thinking, I'd much prefer more damage, go for that. You might be wanting more stam regen. But when you get this build down, Steed, Troll King, speed, heals, everything just works so well. You know, you're in a much better position kiting it out, getting heals, than sort of being in a position where your resistances are getting debuffed and you're losing that. There's no direct counter sort of to, well, I suppose there's the healing debuffs, but there's no real strong counter to this right now. So this on its own isn't great, but this combined with movement speed, the heals, everything synergizes together, everything works so well. So yeah, poisons, and when we talked about poisons, we'll talk about potions. So in terms of my potions that I'm running, obviously I think that the most reliable ones, you know, you just want the knockback. You need to craft some more of these bad boys, but by having the knockback immunity, you can really get burst down. And when you're playing outnumbered, crit, you can increase the crit with other pots, you can increase healing with other pots. These are really nice in terms of the heal you can get per second, that as well as Troll King and Vigor. You could even throw on Crit Surge, man. That would just be tanking it out. That would be good for a sword and board setup. But I don't like my burst to be interrupted when you're going for it. When you're playing outnumbered and you're going for burst, you put in a lot at risk. So for me, having that knockback immunity, as well as the health that stacks with our health recovery, and endurance, which stacks with our stam recovery, for me that really is just key. These are the back bar stats with Troll King fully buffed, with pot as well. We can see a really nice recovery, almost 4k. That's 2k heals per second on that. Really active healing. We can see the weapon damage bumps up to 6.2, really high. All round stats, regens looking really tasty. Coming on next, we'll quickly go over some of the tooltips that we get from that really high weapon damage. We can make the weapon damage higher, but we can see, we're clearing 25k, nearly 26k onslaught here. And the Dizzy, if Dizzy wasn't changed, man. But look at this, 20k. My guy is sessioning. My guy looks like he's at a rave right now. Just ignore my guy. But yeah, 20k on the Dizzy Swing. The damage is sweet. This build is rocking the damage. Having seen the stats and some of the fully buffed tooltips, some of the heals you can get off this build, let's go into sort of some of the passives, some of the skills, some of the setups. So the first one I want to talk about, bound armaments. As you know, I run this on both bars. There's a really good reason for that. I've run bound armaments for patches on patches now, because passively it is really strong. We'll talk about the passives first. So just for having this thing slotted, you're getting a max stam increase by 8%, which is really good. It helps us get over that cusp, so a lot of people now are rolling down sort of stam pools around 30k and stacking into damage. I'd never want mine to drop below 30k. It just doesn't feel right, and sort of without running this, that could happen. So the extra 8% just gets us to our nice sort of 33k max stam margin, which is great with the amount of weapon damage that we're increasing. But also we get the light attack damage increase. Light attack damage can be quite strong, can be quite quick. Obviously you can really use this on the bow bar as well. So from the bow bar we're using light attacks to build, and from the front bar we're using light attacks to build up this skill anyway. Alright, so by having it slotted, our light attack damage is increasing as well, and you can see instantly we've got it, and it can be cancelled. It's a strong move. It's a really strong move. You can surprise people with it. By having it on the back bar as well, we've got the option to build it up. Obviously you can have this on the front bar and it works without having it on the back bar, but we've got the option to send it from the back bar as well, which is really nice, sort of when you're closing opponents down. We can see, that if they're moving away, we'll probably not even get the full one on this, but we don't even have to swap bars. We can just send it off, and it makes the kills quite clean. But the main reason why we can't have it just on the one bar is for the passives. I would lose a lot of regens. We'll talk about the regen passives now. So my max stam, if I didn't have it on the back bar, would be dropped. The light attack damage from the bow bar would be dropped. And a great spammable, a great way to set up burst is light attack poison inject. That as a combo alone, you can pick targets, so you sort of peppering them into everyone. Then you'll see the guy that it takes to half health, and you'll be like, yo, that bitch is mine. It's nice to sort of tease the damage out and to tease the opponents into the fight. But I mentioned the regens, so if we go into I'm not going to do all the skill lines, I'm going to talk about the specific ones for the build. But if we're going to the Daedric Summoning skill line, the only thing we've got slotted from this is bound armaments, and we get the reduced ultimate cost, but we also get the health and stamina recovery by 20%. This is broken. This is a huge amount. This is what allows this build to be cheesed by stacking into heals and stacking into damage. It's one of the best passives that StamSorc has got. Flat health recovery by 20%, flat stamina recovery by 20%. That with everything else, you've seen the stats, you've seen the tooltips. That with everything else is what makes it OP. Later on in the build video we'll talk about bound armaments a little bit more in terms of some of the burst options. But we'll quickly just power through the skills. Okay, Vigor, our active heal over time, really good skill in terms of just keeping our heals up. Obviously it's a different source of healing on top of Troll King. Front bar makes it a little bit stronger with the weapon damage as well. I'm going for the execution of this patch just because, you know, there wasn't much disparity between that and the one that did AoE damage last patch, but now on this we get the 400% multiplier. As the opponents progressively get under 50% health. So like you'll see in the clips in the description, you know, check those links out. I'm hitting some juicy executes. Okay, and the big one, Dizzy Swing. Damage nerf? Yeah, so what, right? The damage nerf was needed. You just imagine the damage that people are putting now if Dizzy still did the easy active stun, and if Dizzy still had that amount of damage. I feel bad that it was tamed back, but it sort of needed it. It would be sky high. You know, you've seen the 20k Dizzy I can get with Fury fully buffed up. That with the original damage and the stun, gosh, that would have been intense. But the damage on this, the Dizzy Swing damage on this is still really high, still great all round. Setting off balance. I wasn't sure I would like this, but 100% now it offers so much. Dizzy Swing is really strong. Obviously we set them off balance, then you can combine a stun in a number of different ways. I'll save the combos, as I've said, to do with Dizzy Swing and bound armaments for the back end of the video. I'll go into them in more detail, but just to summarise, it offers variety. We don't always get the stun, which last patch we did, so that made it great for a spam bull. You know, they'd get the stun, then the second Dizzy wouldn't miss, and then more or less they're then ready for execute range. But this patch we can drop onto the bow bar and stun from that. We can weave in the medium, and we can choose when that happens. And I've got some clean kills. I'll talk through it and illustrate the purpose of how it works, and I'll also show some kills that I've already got in PvP. Some really clean kills using this combo. The downside, there's always a downside with this source, just the lag. When you're severely outnumbered and you're facing a lot of lag, it's very hard to manage and to get down. So you're sort of just going to have to keep fresh. That's why I like having bound armaments as the option, just to surprise people, just to get them down. I like having flexibility. I like being able to sort of play in an orthodox way and surprise my opponents. But yeah, if we get back to Dizzy Swing sort of being clunky and lag, that is why I go for the Steed. I mentioned this earlier, I said I'd get back to this point. That is why I go for the Steed, just because of the sheer speed that we've got on this build. You know, we can really make line of sight. By doing that, you're allowing your heals to be active, your heals to sort of tick up, you're allowing your Fury to build up, and then instantly you're creating gaps. So if you're in a big clunky fight with animations, everything going off, that's not what you want. You want to be kiting out of there, you want to be changing direction, and then checking back for when people have staggered, and you can go in and get a nice clean kill on one person rather than being then bunched up in like a group of 4. You know, that aids towards the way I play this build. You know, you 2H and bow, you want to be in and out, sort of like Scorpion, like stinging them when you can. Such a strong setup. Onslaught, you've seen how high this tooltip gets, man. It's just such a great move. You've obviously got the slight delay on it, so you can't cancel it, but I'll show it with the burst options to do with Dizzy and bound armaments. You can get this clean. Obviously, in lag, it can be a bit of an issue, so that's why you've just got to play mobility, play into the build, get that line of sight, pull people to where you want to just kill them, and yeah, that's pretty much sort of the theory behind the way I've set this up. So yeah, Onslaught really good. Back bar, we've talked about why we run bound armaments on both bars. Hurricane, really nice. We get that speed which stacks, we get those resistances. Bit of a pain sometimes when it's not working as intended in terms of pulling people out of stealth, pulling people out of cloak, but you know, we ride that storm. Dark Deal, heals and sustain, stacked with everything we're doing. this is the deal breaker. This is StamSorc, alright? Dark deal all the way. Big chunks of health, nice chunk of stam pull, but then we get the stam return over 20 seconds. So even if I'm full, you know, I can cast that, and no matter what happens now, that's active where I'm getting those extra regens. You've seen on the stat sheet that the some people might say the regens are low for stam. For me, they're enough. They're enough with the damage that I've got and the mobility I've got and the other forms of sustain through Dark Deal. Poison Inject, really good damage over time. Now acts as an execute as well, so I'm loving this. And Shuffle, where would we be without Shuffle? You know, the cost on this 2.5 isn't bad at all. We don't have the active sort of negative side of new moons making this more expensive. You know, everything on this bar, you know, that we use a lot, it's cheap, right? There's nothing hitting 3k. Shuffle for mobility, you get the 25%, so the quarter less damage from AoEs, and you know, when you're getting zerged, there's always going to be someone spamming some endless sale or some sort of ground based AoE on you. You know, it's good to have that. But it also offers the immunity, and now we get it for 1 second per medium piece. So we're running a 5 medium setup, so you can see we activate it and we get the sort of what you would get from forward momentum. You can see the little sort of looks like a little bit of wind just coming upwards. You know, we get snare immunity for that. Without that, you wouldn't be able to get to line of sight, you wouldn't be able to separate people off. It's very much works into how I would set up the build. And then lastly, we've got, it's working today, we've got Undo. Yeah, you can see in one of the clips I posted below, I undo around line of sight and I go through like 6 people. It's great when it works, but even when it's not working, it's good to have them passively for that major protection. So yeah, those are pretty much the skill setups and the things I wanted to talk about in terms of how we set up the skills. I'll quickly mention our food before we go into CP. Broth for me is really strong, just because of the way we stack into this. If, however, you don't want to run health recovery, if you want to use blood spawn and increase your stam regen, ulti regen and resistances, your option that you want to go with is, where put it, Slaughterables, the werewolf one, what's the name of it? The pack leader's broth. I've been giving this away, man. I've been telling people about this and giving it away. Really high max stam and max health pool, and it works with Bone Pirate. So you can throw this on, and you don't need Fury, alright? Get rid of Fury, put on Bone Pirate, put on this, you've got some tasty regens, you've got some tasty damage, and stick with New Moon's front bar. That is a really strong setup. So Bone Pirate, New Moon's front bar, Master's Bow back bar, and not TK, Bloodspawn. And obviously then, because you're running Bloodspawn, you won't need this in a sense for your heals, and for other passives your regens will be higher anyway. So you can go Camo Hunter is great. Obviously you've got the counter to Cloak, but you've got the Minor Berserk. This will proc, Hurricane will proc this, alright? So your Hurricane ticks will count as the damage that procs this, and overall you'll get higher crit as well. And then on the back bar you clearly don't need it there, so you've got the option, maybe, I don't know, Trap Beast when you're setting up chokes, something reliable, Crit Surge for extra heals, Streak. You know, you've got those pretty much as your different options. Ignore the weapon damage. I had Spriggan on instead of New Moon here, but with Bone Pirate and New Moon you're looking at some crazy stats, some even higher damage. I'll show the Vigor tooltips, but those are the raw stats, what you'd get with the different setup. You know, this is with Spriggan on, I believe, so the tooltip would go even higher with New Moon, but a great setup overall, really good alternative setup to consider. But both of these foods for in terms of stam-based setups, you know, you want to be running the best. These are really strong setups, really strong foods and drinks. Yeah, they're both called broth. Arteon was released, and then everyone was like, it's going to work with Bone Pirate, it's going to be insane. Of course, it's a drink, it's a broth, but it was classified as a food. But this is the, it's sort of the fix-up, look sharp version of it. So yeah, let's get into CP. I'm not going to spend too long on this, just because I can see the video is going to be getting quite lengthy right now. Okay, 66, 3, 1, really nice setup, really nice spread. We go 43, 43, 43, regens on heavy attacks from bow from 2H, regens on stam, regens on health recovery, which we are stacking in quite nicely as well. not break free, tumbling, medium. You know, you've got the dodge roll, 66 in there, works nice, just gets you over the 22%, and then the rest in block. Yeah, we're on a bow build, we've got high mobility, but you know, block you're going to be needing quite a lot at some points when playing outnumbered. Nothing in this one. You don't need blessed. Blessed doesn't give great returns. For me, rather than increasing vigor. Just with blessed and sort of by stacking into that, having the other source of healing as Trollking is pretty good. You know, that'll probably work different on builds like Stam DKs, you know, where you've got your mage mending, where you've got other buffs like that. But for me, the statistical healing is great on StamSorc. Okay, we go 16 here. We talked about this earlier, that bound armaments gives us our increase in light attack damage. Okay, this does also, and it's active on both bars, as is the bound armaments. So this really pumps up our light attack damage. It's almost like a sort of range spammable light attack poison inject, and obviously when you're on your front bar anyway, your light attack executing, light attack dizzying. It's just an extra chance to proc your weapon damage, proc your poisons, proc all those things that you need. Master at Arms 66 takes us to 22%, and we get that nice increased damage with all our direct damage moves done. And the spread here, 28% in Thermitage, 56 to bump up that crit. We still need the pen, just because the way you need to think about Onslaught is, yes, on impact it ignores that pen, but you also gain it. So any pen that you already had, it's gaining on to something new that you've got, and you don't want to sort of be in a situation where your damage is lackluster because you've not got initial pen. Alright, you're not always going to have the Onslaught, you still need a flat amount of pen. 64 into Mighty, and this spread's just really simple. 66 into Ironclad, 56 for that juicy crit resist. Then we still go thick skinned. I've not really adjusted this last patch. Dots were strong last patch, but dots are strong in general from a outnumbered perspective. So I really like this in terms of our damage mitigation there. 43, and that wraps up CP. Let's go through our burst options with some gameplay commentary. This is away from the lag in the 1v1s. It is harder to do some of these sort of combos and burst rotations in lag, but that's where I say you play the build the way I do, where you're in and out and you're creating line of sight. No exposures in this, man. This is just some content, just some clips to show what I mean. This first clip is nothing. It's just, you know, beautiful. Bound armaments before I took the fall damage, but yeah, the kill tips are coming in thick and fast. So in this one, we set it up, we go for the bound armaments first, into the dizzy, into the medium weave, into the execute, onslaught, whatever you like. You know, that works so well. You can charge the medium attack up through the dizzy. This first clip lasts a little bit longer. I just want to show the sort of capabilities in terms of the movement speed and how you can kite in and out. So we can see we get a bunch of people, 3 people on, there's another person coming up. But the sustain is there, the damage mitigation is there, the healing is there. And look at that burst heal, look at that Trollking heals. You know, we can get in and out of there. So what I try to do is I try to make space here. This is how you want to be playing the build. Always making space, always making the opponents come to you. We can see that I'm just pulling into sort of a bit of a choke, a bit of the line of sight. Then I'll do a turn and burn. And it's quite a high health magpie that I get the turn and burn on. You can see poison inject, dizzy, set it off balance, into the partial charge, execute, onslaught. Gets the combo down, and then we can use the movement to move away, full heal, look at that, full recovery, straight back into the fight, ready to carry on. So this is the sort of thing you want to be practicing, the way you want to be playing it. But we'll move on to the next clip, just to show some other combos, some other rotations. Okay, this one comes really fast. I charge the medium up through the dizzy attack here, so you can see it comes so fast. Stun into the onslaught, you could barely see it, but that's what I mean about winding that medium up. You let the onslaught, you let the dizzy come on first, then you charge up the partial, and you almost use you almost like bash it or block it off, so you can't really see it. When you do this fast, you can see I've even got the bound armaments here ready for the next kill. Oh baby, I love the look of that skill. This is a really quick one as well. You can see I'm just sort of taking damage, coming in and out. I charge the medium up just as I'm releasing the dizzy, so the stun is instant, then I block it off. You can see you won't see a clunky medium heavy attack. You can see the stun, it's all in, it's all fluid. This is what you need to practice, this is what you need to get down. When you get this down, you can make some space, take on more opponents, you can repeat it. Really simple and effective in terms of what sort of burst you can produce. On top of that, because the stun now doesn't come from Dizzy, it comes from the medium weave. It ultimately gives more control and flexibility, and when you want to put that stun down, and you can really play with your burst options. But this is the end of the video, guys. I hope you found this useful. Drop your thoughts, comments and below. To my subscribers, new and old, continue, thank you very much. Loving the support, it's always greatly appreciated. Really loving what I'm doing right now in terms of the content. Moving on to Stamplar next. So that's it, guys. Take it easy. Judas out.